How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? Hello and welcome back to Mystery Inc. My name is Richie. Today we've got another Fear Street book review for you. Today we're talking about Cat. So Cat was the 45th book in the original Fear Street run. Originally printed it was May of 1997. And I'm going to say right off the bat, this one didn't get as high of a technical score as The Secret Bedroom, but this one so far has definitely been my favorite. So let's get into Cat. First things first, do our typical brief overview of the story here. I apologize if I seem a little bit out of it. I haven't been feeling that great today. I think I might be coming down with a cold or something like that, but I wanted to get this review done while the book is fresh in my memory because I just finished reading it last night. And yeah, like I said, I love this one. First things first, let's take a look at the cover artwork because it's just great. It's gonna be really glary on this camera here because it's very glossy. The colors don't look that great either, but this really badass looking cat there, and then the girl with the matching like green cat shaped eyes. It's really hard to see on here. You'll be able to see it better when I put the picture up with the star review in a bit. But yeah, this was a great book. So it follows our protagonists. So the main character's name is Marty, and his two best friends, Barry and Dwayne, who are all players on the high school Shadyside High's basketball team. I believe they're all seniors. And then there are a couple of other side characters. So there's three girl characters that we see throughout the book as well, which are Kit, Ricky, and Gail. So so we have Marty, Barry, and Dwayne who are all practicing for this big upcoming basketball tournament. And Marty is expecting to have a college scholarship for basketball. And so he's, really focused on training for this. And so there's this weird situation that they have where there's this stray cat that has somehow like been living in the school and hides under the bleachers, and it runs out across the court all the time, and the team makes a big deal of trying to catch it every time they see the cat. Anyway, this one particular day during practice, the cat runs out and trips Marty, and he ends up hurting his knee and has to be out, not playing basketball for like a week or so right before this big tournament. And during this practice, we've got the girl characters, which are all very integrated in the story as well. We've got Kit, who is this like drop dead gorgeous girl. She's like the hottest girl in school or whatever that Marty's got this huge crush on, who's sitting in the stands watching them practice at the beginning of this before the cat runs out and trips him. And we've got Gail and Ricky, and there's one other girl too. What's her name? Jennifer. She doesn't play as big of a role. I don't remember if that's her name. I think her name is Jennifer. But you have Gail, who's friends with Marty, and then you have Ricky, who's kind of sort of Marty's ex-girlfriend. They weren't like exclusively dating or anything like that. And she's like really irritated, really upset with Marty because he basically just blew her off and stopped going out with her without even like really officially breaking up or anything, even though they weren't like an official, item. Anyway, so Marty ends up getting hurt, and I don't remember if it's that same day. I think it's the same day during the same practice. The cat ends up running out from under the bleachers again, and then Marty really wants to catch the cat and like send it off to the pet shelter because it's just become a nuisance, and everybody else on the team wants to catch it and get rid of it too. So Dwayne, Barry, and Marty end up chasing the cat up onto one side of the bleachers and kind of cornering it. It's really upset, really angry. It's hissing at them, and Marty ends up grabbing the cat, and something happens. I forget if it was something with his knee that was hurting, and then he ends up accidentally dropping the cat off the bleachers, and the cat dies. And so then that triggers a thing where Gail all of a sudden really hates Marty because she's a big animal lover. Ricky's really upset with him too, and so Dwayne and Barry start making these really upsetting jokes about the cat cats in general too, just trying to upset Gale more. Marty's the only one of the three boys that seems, even bothered that the cat died. He didn't want to kill it, he just wanted to catch it. What else? So anyway, this goes on, and then Gale works for the school newspaper and starts, like, basically bad-mouthing Marty that he's a cat killer and all this stuff. And, things kind of end up kind of bad for him, where he's worried that, this may affect his ability to get his college scholarship. So he ends up going, on trial with this, like, high school, like, school court thing. And he's proven guilty of being cruel to animals, I guess, because of what happened, but he's acquitted of murdering the cat 'cause, they decided it was an accident, which it was. He ends up having to serve some, like, community service, helping out at this pet shelter. And anyway, things go on for a little bit, and he's going out helping at this pet shelter. He keeps seeing the cat around, and there's several other cats that keep having really strange behavior around him. Some strays out there, and then all the cats at the pet shelter also are acting really weird. A lot of strange stuff going on. So Marty's not sure, like, if it's just his imagination, if he's just, like, upset, having some, like, post-traumatic stress over this whole thing with the cat, or if there's something, like, supernatural going on and this cat is haunting him or something. He starts flirting with this other girl named, I think it was Jessica. I could be wrong about her name. It's Jessica or Jenny or something like that. I think it started with a J. I might be completely off. I really can't remember her name. She's not that important of a character. Which ends up getting Ricky very jealous, and then she starts... So you've got these two characters that kind of have it in for Marty, which are Ricky and Gale. And then all this other stuff going on with the cat. And then... I forget exactly how it starts, but Kit all of a sudden is showing some interest in Marty, and they end up starting to date, which, Marty's super excited about, even though he's worried, that Jennifer's going to be upset that, they were having, some kind of flirting going on, and then all of a sudden he's going out with Kit. It turns out Kit is also a big cat person. She's got, like, a ton of cats at her house, which is not great for Marty because he's also, besides the whole, traumatic thing with the cat, he's also very allergic to cats. That's a big part of his character there, too, in the book. And so they end up dating for a while, and things kind of go on where, these weird things with cats keep happening to Marty until one of the main characters that I've mentioned here, I'm not going to spoil who, but a couple of the main characters here end up getting killed in really gruesome ways, like getting, like, shredded up and clawed up like from a cat or something like that, like a giant cat, or knives or something. It's not really clear. It's not supposed to be clear until the very ending. And that's about all I'm going to say. I'm not going to, tell you who, but I will say that the plot was good. It was very intriguing, and while I did guess who the killer was going to be, probably about, was it halfway through the book? It might have been earlier, actually. Because there were a few red herrings in here. You may or may not have been able to pick up on reading through it. If you know, you know. But I did guess who the killer was going to be pretty early on. I'm not going to say any more because I don't want to spoil it if you haven't read it. It was a great read. It was really fun book. This is the first Fear Street book I read that actually reminded me a lot of Goosebumps. It makes sense because, this was 97, so Goosebumps was already, out for 5 years, so Stein was writing both series at the same time. I don't know if this one was ghostwritten, actually. 'Cause I know some of the later Fear Street books were ghostwritten. I'm pretty sure all of the Fear Street sagas were. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's just what I picked up from other Fear Street related videos that I've seen on YouTube. But yeah. So there was a really big twist at the end with the killer that I didn't see coming. Probably should have picked up on it. But I will tell you, there was nothing in the story itself that led me to suspect the twist. There was something about the book, though. I'm not going to give away what it was. If you know, you know. But let's go ahead and move over into my star rankings, and I'll break down some of the categories here in a little bit more detail. All right, so first up, looking at the characters here, I gave this a 4 out of 5 star on characters, and the reason for that was I liked most of the characters. I thought Marty was a pretty good character. All the girls were fairly well written, fairly believable characters. My biggest issue was with the friends, Barry and Dwayne. At the very beginning of the book, we get the typical Stein, description of the characters, and we also get a description of their personalities. Where I think it was Dwayne is supposed to be like this, straight-laced, serious one, and then Barry's supposed to be this, class clown, jokester kind of guy. But honestly, pretty much after that point in the story, throughout the rest of the book, they pretty much seem to have basically the same characteristics. Like they were always joking at the same time or being serious at the same time. So they basically felt like two of the same character, and so I felt like they didn't really live up to the explanation for what we got for them at the beginning. Maybe that was just my perspective. I don't know. So I knocked a 1 star off for that, but otherwise, I felt like most of the characters were written pretty well. I felt like the dialogue was fairly decent throughout the whole story. So yeah, decent characters. Atmosphere in this book, I only gave this a 3. That might be a little bit harsh. I don't know. Like it didn't feel that atmospheric to me. It felt a lot like Lights Out, where it definitely had some scary vibes. There was some points in the story where there was a lot of atmosphere, especially later on when Marty starts questioning reality, whether he's actually being, affected supernaturally by these cats, or if it's just, him kind of losing his mind from the stress or the trauma of the incident. And so things got pretty atmospheric, I would say, at that point in the story. So that was, I don't know, a good chunk of the book, good chunk of the way through the book when that started happening, at least that I picked up on. So I gave it kind of a middle of the road on atmosphere. Really good later in the story. The beginning, it was okay. Maybe a little harsh. I try to be fairly critical with these ratings. As far as plot and twist goes, yeah, the plot was good. The only thing that could have been better, and maybe this book didn't really deserve a 5 star, but I thought it was definitely good. It definitely hit the mark, and a little bit beyond that. Again, anytime that a book can surprise me with the twist ending, that's especially a Stein book. Having read so many Goosebumps, and now I'm on my 5th Fear Street book. Yeah, I've not begun. I'm usually pretty good at predicting twists and seeing where these stories are going. So this one threw me for a little bit of a loop. Like I said, I guessed who the character was that was going to be the killer, but I did not guess the twist related to that character. And so I'm sorry, what was I saying? The only thing that maybe could have been a little bit better is how the cat ended up dying by accident, like dropping a cat off of some bleachers. That's like what, 12 feet at most, maybe 15. A cat would just land on its feet. It wouldn't be bothered by that fall probably. That seemed a little bit probably the weakest point of the entire story, but everything else after that point, which is the majority of the book, was great. Pacing, intrigue, yeah. I didn't feel like the book suffered any pacing issues. There were definitely some slower moments early on, but it felt very intentional, building up the tension, and like I said, the intrigue with Marty. We're not sure if there's something supernatural going on with these cats, or if it's just stress and the deaths that incur. If it's a person, if it's a cat that's doing this, we don't know what's going on until pretty much like the last 5, maybe the last 10 pages. It's really good on that, building up that intrigue, and like I said, the pacing, even though it was slower in some points than some other books that we've read, it felt good. It was intentional. Overall enjoyment, yeah, this was a solid 5 for me. I picked this one. I read this one pretty early on. I heard a lot of good things about this one from other reviewers and other people who've collected the series, and I wasn't intending to save this one for later, but after I just read Cry of the Cat from Goosebumps, which came out 7 months after this book was written, I wanted to see how similar they were, if at all. And there were a few similarities with, like the supernatural kind of cat elements, but other than that, they were pretty fairly independent stories, which was nice. It was definitely nice. I think that pretty much until the ending, the cat was actually scarier in the Goosebumps book. But obviously, in that one, nobody died except the cat. In this one, people die. Gruesomely. Yeah. And then, yeah, this book wasn't really funny at all. This humor category also, I've been debating about changing this with the Fear Street books because, I think I gave a 1 star for Goodnight Kiss, which was a great book, don't get me wrong, but it bumped it up to basically the same overall score as this one, and I don't think that that book was as good as Cat, at least in my opinion. It was better in some ways, but Cat was definitely my overall favorite. And so I ended up giving it an overall score. Here was 4.4 out of 5, good enough for a 4.5 star. And yeah, if we put it in the ranking, you'll see that it's got the same score as Goodnight Kiss. I like this one better, so I put it in the number 2 slot. And yeah, honestly, it. I don't know if I enjoyed this one more or less than The Secret Bedroom. They were, I mean, these two have been pretty much on par for me. Like the first one was a great ghost story. This was a great weird supernaturally goosebumps feeling book, and I absolutely adored this book. Also, the cover is just absolutely fantastic. Just the look on the cat's face and then the girl holding the cat. It's just, oh my gosh. It's a very simple cover, but it's perfect. And once you get to the end of this book and think about it, it's like a perfect representation of the story too. Yeah, it's just a great book. Let me know what your thoughts are on this one if you've read it, and if you have any ideas or any suggestions on Fear Street books you'd like to see me read and review in the near future. I don't know which one I'm going to read after this, but it's probably going to be one with maybe a little bit less of a supernatural angle. Because the first two I read were not really supernatural, and then the last two that I read were kind of supernaturally, with Goodnight Kiss and then this one. So I don't know. Actually, the last three, because we had The Secret Bedroom also. I'm feeling one that's maybe a little bit less. I want to spread it out so that, I don't get all the supernatural stuff clumped together and then. I'm thinking I might read the Wrong Number 2 next, while the first Wrong Number is still fresh in my memory. Yeah, it's been like a month, but still fresh-ish. Yeah, any other suggestions would be great. Let me know what you want to see read and reviewed here, and we'll look at that for a future video. For now, thank you guys so much for watching. Like I said, let me know your thoughts on Cat, if you've read it, if you haven't. Other Fear Street books that you want to see me read. I'm just rambling on and repeating myself now, so thank you guys so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next video, and have a great day.